Good morning. Excuse me. It's about 8:30, which is pretty late for me. But as I mentioned, I think last time we had a wind scared doggo the night before, so it was didn't get much sleep. I'm trying to learn to sleep. I'm trying to force myself to sleep more. I'm not a big sleeper, and hopefully this is a good day for that kind of reset. A lot of things to reset. I am working on my rambling. I ramble, but hopefully I can not hem and haw and digress so much and stay a little more focused in my rambling. Laminar flow in in a river, kind of rambling. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Uh, what I always find I think the Monday after kind of the New Year's Eve type holiday just clears up all the holiday straggling and gets fully reset to a real New Year reset. Uh, which I think, like everybody else, is like it almost feels like you're setting yourself up for failure with New Year's resolutions. So I'm not really looking at that as much as, I mean, maybe I am, but I'm not trying to make it official with a bunch of declarations and uh, overdoing it where I am not going in a week. I won't be sticking to what I want to do. Uh, so there are things, definitely some things I want to do, and this is, I suppose, one of them right here. But the post-holiday thing is I don't find it real depressing. I remember about 12 years ago, we had kind of the uh, Christmas Eve day that was a little marred. So we get a phone message, believe it or not, from my wife's doctor who said your CA 125 number says cancer antigen 125. It's a protein that marks for cancer. Usually they're around 34. We want it under 34 or 35. Yours are 4,540 was the number. So we, the doc was like, we got to get you in for surgery pronto, but that doctor was going on vacation, so we got another oncologist. But it leaves an interesting taste to Christmas Eve. Uh, Now, by the way, she is fine. She's been in remission for quite some time, so please don't worry about that. I think it's a specter for all of us, whether we've had it or not. And it doesn't have to be just that health concern. But, I talk about health concerns a lot. I suppose that's just part of life these days. So I have to accept it, but also move forward. And so I'm moving forward from that. But, the holidays, the Christmas holidays, I mean, I think it's neat that they're kind of this observance, that everybody gets, that everybody, not everybody. I've had Christmases alone where it just was a day I couldn't look for work. But I also have Christmases where people get together, and and it's just kind of an excuse to get together. I've never been a real big one on some of the things, the trappings, I guess you would call it, the like the gifts. It becomes this hassle, and people feel very put upon to deal with this, and there's financial stresses, and I think it's also can be an excuse to be financially irresponsible, and then that catches you, about 3 months later, I suppose. But excuse me, in terms of gift themselves, honestly, the gifts I like aren't attached to an occasion, a Christmas or a birthday or an anniversary, any of those kinds of things. It's when you find a box that's been delivered to you or dropped off or whatever, or even just a friend handing you something because saw this, I was thinking about you, I thought you would enjoy it. Just a real personal connection that isn't about an occasion. I mean, I get the idea that occasions give you structure, and I can see that point. But it's that structureless, or maybe it's that I'm saying you provide structure to my life. You've provided it's you've provided things to me. You're a valuable part of my life, and you've changed my life, and you're part of it. Those are the ones that I really like. I'm also not a big fan of the cut Christmas tree. And that's not a big moralization. If people do it, that's fine. It's just not for me. Excuse me. I get the back in the day, the tradition, when you're kind of cutting trees all the time because you live on a farm or what have you. So I completely understand that, where you're just going out into the forest full of trees and you cut down a tree and the population wasn't as dense. So it wasn't that big of an impact, and you were probably going to use the tree for other stuff anyway. It's a little wet for firewood, but you can put it on top, and sometimes the pine can smell nice, and not as the main fuel, but on top. Uh, so or maybe you cure it for later. Maybe it's not the densest wood, but it has its purposes for sure. Uh, so I'm not opposed to that, but it's not for me. I don't need to bring in a dying tree into the home. We decorate something outside with lights and like that, and that's our little Christmas tree. My wife's even done a painting of the Christmas tree, and we used to use that. Still sometimes do. It's funny though. This year we did put up a Festivus pole. So that's a new tradition we will continue. So that was fun. But this time I find to be kind of a good reset, and there's always the double-edged sword of overblowing the New Year's resolution thing, and I think we all have that fear there's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're going to make a big announcement or a big promise to ourselves, only to have it fall apart a week later or 3 weeks later or what have you. I'm not trying to do any of these rigid resolutions, just using this time for a little bit of reset to get back to things. That is one thing about the Christmas season that stresses me out a little bit. It does seem to fall always on the time where there's a lot more kind of obligations or things that pull your attention away to different things. And it always seems like I got some kind of project really about to catch momentum. I mean, it could be a repair project, or hey, we need to put a new lamp in there or whatever it is, fixing something. But there always seems to be some project that the holidays derail a little bit, and so it's good to get back to this. I am about to get on the bike. It's my health problems were kind of not allowing me to do that as much as I want, and it was a big part of my life. Not as a sport. Had plenty of friends that used it as a sport. They helped me out quite a bit. I used to live in Boulder, Colorado, where it was just part of the lifestyle. To ride. I did a lot of power touring and things like that. Didn't own a car, and just would get around up my bike for a significant part of my life, and that was really good. And so it's weird to be just using it as an exercise now, and I'm not even training. I'm not looking for performance right now. I'm just trying to get some more motion and things like that. And it was, I mean, it really was an interesting part for me, because I guess kind of like the gift, where it's like I was thinking about you and that kind of thing. The bicycle for me is an expression of faith a little bit, because kind of harkening back to my wife, but my dad, died of cancer. This was quite some time ago, 31 years ago. But a lifetime smoker. The drinking probably didn't help, but lung cancer. He got a backache. I have a backache, but he went in for an X-ray, and he came back telling me I'm a dead man. It was lung cancer that had metastasized in his spine. And I watched him turn into a corpse before he died. So that guy went down in flames. But I was really wigged out, and the only place I could find anything, and through some kind of financial hard times and just different, luck wasn't great for me for a while. It wasn't even finding solace on the bike, but it's how I got around. Right? It was life had kind of fallen apart a little bit. It kind of that I was just trying to hold kind of basic life together. I was pretty weird at that time, and my friends they were wonderful. I was just a tweaked out dude around town doing what I could. But it was just pedals go round and round. Sometimes that's all I had, because if I stopped, I wasn't sure I was going to get up. There'd be nights where I remember I would just kind of stop breathing, and not really hold my breath, but just stop breathing. And I know, my autonomic nervous system would kick in at some point and take it over, but I didn't feel the need to breathe. Like it didn't. It was kind of like watching your own blinking and realizing it almost felt like to restart it, I'd had to sort of volitionally breathe, inhale, just start. Uh, and and I spent a lot of time underwater, so I'm always used to apnea in general. But there'd be before any of that would kick in, the autonomic nervous system or that any kind of raging urge to breathe. Mine tended to be longer than most people's. I was just lost in this thought that it's like, I wonder if I could just not breathe, because it felt like I had to, emotionally at least, or to start. It wasn't like naturally I was thinking about it like blinking, but naturally it just started up again. I would sit there for a little bit, within that period of time, and I realized it's a little bit of a fiction of emotion, but it just felt like I could just not breathe, and even if there was the moments of urge, I could just, if I just didn't, maybe I'd pass through that period, and the bias would switch the other way to not breathing, and then just wouldn't be there anymore. So there were those feelings, and I guess that's where the bike came in. And the funny thing is, the bike, you're a glorified air pump on a bike. When you kind of get really into it and fit, like as you're warming up, as you get excited, you start kind of pre-breathing almost, or not hyperventilating, but your body is used to what's about to happen, and you just start pumping air through your lungs. You're a pulmonary machine. But I would just keep the pedals going round and round. And, I had my racer friends and these things, but my thing was, since it was how I got around, and even at one point lived on my bike, it was just all conditions. And my thing was, I would not stop. I wouldn't, stepping down is what you call it on a ride. I'm stepping down. You're calling that ride, but it just, not something I'd do. I'd just wasn't the fastest guy, but I would just keep trudging it out. I mean, I used to ride friction shift down to equipment, very simple equipment, because even if it froze, I could break it free, the ice free in freezing rain and that, and I'd ride in the snow and ride in any conditions really, and it was just pedals go round and round because I felt like it couldn't stop. Not that it couldn't stop, but if I stopped, like when they talk about a firefight, like if you stay on your feet, if you get on your ass, you're done. Never been in a firefight, but that's what they say. But that's what I focused on. And the funny thing I learned about that, I think, is that faith in a purish form that way. That faith was faith. What's the faith in? Doesn't matter. That's not the point. The faith itself is self-sustaining. It's almost maybe it's like touching God in terms of Yahweh. I am. I am. It's a self-consistent statement. It's uh, um, it's the premise on which you base things. It's just the pedals go round and round. Why? What would happen? All the what would happen if I didn't? We're all peripheral thoughts. Later, when in that moment of faith, it's and pedals go round and round. Why? All those questions are immaterial. Pedals go round and round, and it's weird when you get that, especially you're exhausted, and it's cold. I mean, it's winter cold, and I'm miles in the way, sometimes in the mountains, miles away from a town, and and then if you start feeling a little warm, you're like, this is hypothermia. And just pedals go round and round, pedals go round and round. What is it? In miles to go before I sleep. But that's a place where I found faith, and I have an interesting relationship with the bicycle, and it's strange to be about to get on a bicycle that doesn't go anywhere. I'm on the exercise bike right now, for some the weather, sure, and responsibility reasons with my health that, I can't extract myself as easily, so I can't bail. So, and it gives me, a more gentle, controlled ride right now, which is it's about just moving my body for me right now. So it's a weird revisitation to a land and a faith I once knew. And I'm trying not to overthink it. Just going to get on the bike and make the pedals go round and round and see if I can find a way back. Which sounds more depressing than it is. It is not. I am doing fine. I'm okay. I'm okay. But yeah, so I'm interesting to see what this year holds. And again, I think keeping the load on these big ideas that I'm going to have a fresh start and get the 500 bottles of vitamins. I'll take these every day, and then 3 years later, you find a bunch of expired shit in your cabinet. And we're going to try to avoid that part, but we're going to try to move forward. Maybe be a little more kind to myself on this stuff. I hope you guys are doing well. Anybody that is listening. And I know people always like leave a comment. I know for engagement. I don't care. That's not the point here. I mentioned leave a comment, or I'm not really sure how direct messaging works on YouTube, but if you want for me to listen to you, not to make a channel, especially if you just sometimes maybe talking to a stranger would be all right. So, hey, I appreciate you guys listening. I'm going to get this day started. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much. I will work on that. Maybe I'll even learn to draw. But thank you.